I'd like to welcome Pramod Poudel. He's the Chief of Campus at Softwarica College of IT and e-commerce here in Nepal. He's also a businessman in control of several other tech companies, entrepreneur. So Pramod, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob.
So tell me just a little bit about what you do.
Well, at the moment, I lead Softwarica College of IT and e-commerce in the capacity of campus chief. I look after overall academics and operations of this institution. And besides this, I also act as a director of Softwid group of companies, under which there are many other companies in different sectors, including hospitality, education technologies, and so on and so forth. So within the education technology sector, we have DG Technology, a company called DG Technology, which offers education solutions to various colleges and universities and even schools through a software called schoolworkspro.com. And DG School, it's a content-based company which has IT contents for children from the age 5 till 15 or 16. Those are the two companies directly associated with education technology. Besides those, we have a resort in Pokhara, and then we have a travel solution company as well, and a small real estate company as well. So within the group, we have altogether 12 companies.
So keeping your hands full.
Yeah.
So what we're interested today is about the technology side. So obviously, you're deeply enmeshed in technology side. How would you describe the situation in Nepal, like technology-wise?
Well, to put this into context, you are probably aware of the Chandrayaan-3 landing in the moon last night, right? Mm-hmm. So that's India. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we weren't that far from India back in 1999, where Nepal introduced first mobile phone services through Nepal Telecom Communication Corporation. So India introduced it a few years before that, and we weren't that far. But fast forward 25 years, now India is one of the, how do you tell it? Most advanced, one of the most advanced countries in technology, right? Able to land its moon, its rocket in the moon in the South Pole, where no other countries have ventured ever. Right. And the Russians did try, but then they failed. I think that was a few weeks back,
or
a month back. Yeah. So in those 25 years, we were not able to do much. But having said that, we did a little bit after 2009, when the first IT company called Verisk Nepal came to Nepal and formally started this BPO industry, and getting stuff done from the works from abroad, especially the US, and especially from healthcare. The part of the problem is that our system and our bureaucracy and our government were not very serious on technology since the beginning, right? And it's only been few years that the government is kind of taking note of the ongoing technology, the things that are produced in Nepal, and technology transfer and all these stuffs. And the fact that the first technology company was established in Nepal back in the 1980s, and I recall it's called DSI, and it was actually founded by an American couple, right? So from then on, if the government and if the stakeholders had concentrated upon and given due priorities in those things, we would have been in a different scenario by now. But then that did not happen, and that company closed a couple of years later. And then there was another company called Mercantile Solutions, and that was the company that formally came into the market, offering hardware services and and later on ISP services, internet and all that. So Mercantile was the first company that when I was little that we heard of, and I aspired to become an employee of that company while I was doing school, 9th grade or 10th grade. So the situation has now improved quite a lot since past few years. But then before that, because of the Maoist insurgency, and there were various other things, because of technology illiteracy of the government officials and our political leaders, and we missed out quite a lot in those 2 decades. And we were trying to recover it, but the pace has been really slow. If you look at the data of 2022, about 68 billion rupees was earned by Nepalese companies and individuals in the IT services sector, and that's foreign currency, right? And that was up by 64% YOI basis, year-on-year basis, compared to the data of 2021, and that's quite a leap. It's 64% up.
Yeah.
Right. And that amount is 1.4% of the total GDP of this country, right? Which is huge, which is massive.
Yeah, especially that quickly.
Yeah, and it's like 5.5% of the total foreign exchange revenue earned by the country as well. So and the thing about that is that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
So all the income has not been accounted for. It's only those who are willing to provide the data and all that. So I suspect that figure would be 2 or 3 times as much, right? So there has been quite a lot of progress. And last year, during the budget, one provision was made, which was hugely celebrated amongst the IT companies and freelance IT service providers. That's 1% tax on any income that you provide to foreign countries, right? So whatever amount that you get, you'll be taxed at only 1%, and that will be taxed right at the source. So you don't really have to do anything. You don't have to fill up the form. You don't do much. So once the money comes into the bank automatically deducts 1% from whatever amount you receive, and that's it. And that money becomes legal.
Right.
But before that, it was on the gray area. So people used to receive a lot of remittances providing services, right? So these money used to come from various different channels, some from the bank, some from, hundis. Hundi means, you know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now we are under the process of legitimizing the whole process, and it's going to take a little while as well. Still, a lot of people are not so confident. The law might change once everyone comes through the banking channel and everyone has this kind of transparency. Then the government might suddenly say, okay, now it's going to be taxed at 15% or 25%. So
Right.
people are still scared.
Right.
They're still suspecting whether this is going to last, and especially in the case where the revenues of the government is not much. And
Yeah.
you must have heard in the news that we don't have much money even to distribute salaries amongst government officials.
Yeah, especially since COVID.
Yeah. So the construction companies are on strike because they have not received payment. So it's I think the amount is 4 kharba, which means that $300 million.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
$400 million. So still pending. I mean, these people, they've done the work, they haven't received the payment because the government, does not have much. So in this scenario, that taxation might go up as well, that I suspect. So, and a lot of other people in the IT industry suspect as well. So that's the general scenario as of now. And we are moving in the right direction, but it's late,
Sure.
I know, but then we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to make up for lost time, right? But I know for example, just in internet and cellular coverage, the numbers in the last 5 years are, a sea change from where they were before that. I think I just saw in the news there was, some remote areas are now even getting some 5G testing. Some villages further out where they just got 4G and they're already testing 5G. So there's progress. I think it's like you said though. It's it's an industry that changes quickly, and so when you're kind of stepping through it, you could sometimes miss a step because it moves so quickly. But so, related to that, then, I mean, obviously you're in charge of one of the larger education facilities for graduating Nepali students into that world. Obviously I'm aware of some of the technology education here in Nepal, and I think much of it is great. I think maybe if anything, there's not enough institutions, to try to keep up with the demand. But so what do you think about that? Do you think that education is on the verge of like a massive growth? And what kinds of things need to happen for that to like really sort of take off?
Yeah, to answer this question, to get this into perspective, when we say the earlier question, IT scenario in Nepal, IT situation, the technology situation in Nepal, a lot of the understanding at the government level and the bureaucracy level is that technology simply means owning devices. Mm-hmm. That's been the concept in Nepal so far, and it's changing now, right? So we in the past 2 decades, when the government said that we are progressing in technology and IT and all that, a lot of the things was meant to be, owning devices. For example, you own a laptop, you own a desktop, you
Sure.
own, tablets, you own iPhones. I mean,
Sure.
that's simply adoption of devices,
Sure.
not enhancement of technology. So we were not making our own products. We were not integrating technology into government services. We were, there were queues, passport queues. If you have to make a passport, you have to queue up for 4-5 days.
So basically, you're getting devices and connecting to existing things made somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's even now. If you speak to a lot of government officials and people who've been working there since past 25 years, 30 years, they still understand technology as owning devices, right? So we face a very hard time, making them understand what technology really is, and the potential of it if we implement it in the government sector, if we implement it in a variety of other sectors. And the same thing also goes to the private sector as well, because even the private companies, a lot of them do not want to adopt technology in their operations.
Sure.
Part of the reason would be that once you integrate technology in the overall system, things become transparent, right? So you could actually track what's going on.
Sure.
So that's the beauty of technology, isn't it? I mean, you have data and you can process the data. You can, do
Follow
all sorts
your
of
trends,
calculations, and
all those things.
The data can predict your future outcomes and things like that. And and people are scared, and that's one of the thing that I realized while trying to implement our schoolworkspro.com in various schools and colleges and universities, because our software is a BI software, so it tracks literally everything, right? So within that institution, and then it says everything about if you are a teacher, then it tells you about how many hours you spend, the outcome of your students,
Grades,
your real
performance.
contribution, and your data would be in the front of the institution head. And before that, maybe that particular person would have gone around pretty much doing nothing.
Right.
And still, keeping the job. Right. But that would not be the scenario once you implement this kind of software. And this is the situation also in a lot of government offices. And people are scared. I'll give you an example. There was a strike of drivers in Nepal Telecommunication Corporations where they wanted to implement EV, electronic vehicle, right? And EV does not have much maintenance.
Yeah.
Right, and then if you don't have maintenance, and these drivers would not make money out of it, and they are paid so low that they have to depend on all these extra incomes. Right. So and it's quite obvious that they're going to oppose it.
Right.
Although it's good for the environment, it's good for everything else, but it's not good for
and
them.
Probably them in the long run.
Yeah.
It's not seeing that. It's a rocky road between their own benefit.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's the thing. When I talk about all these things. Now the education scenario comes in, and we teach people. We have few IT programs at Softwarica College. We've been in the industry since past 11, 12 years now. We have churned out many graduates, right? And then initially during the year 2011-12, the charm wasn't that much, right? Because the reason was there was a banking industry boom in our country. So a lot of people were attracted to the management courses.
You're talking back in like 2011, 12?
Yeah. And there was a lot of banks opening up, development banks opening up, finance companies, and even corporate houses. And there was not much scope of IT to say so.
Sure.
Right. And then we started in that scenario, and we sort of didn't have many students, and we didn't generate much interest amongst the populace.
Right.
Right. Because the IT industry was in its infancy, in the context of Nepal, not in the context of world, in the context of Nepal, because Veris opened in 2009 and we started our college in 2011. So the interest gradually increased in the year 2014 and 15, as people realized that there are a lot of money to be made for outsourcing jobs. And even when people travel abroad, it is these technical positions where they get all sorts of benefits, and they can take off technical jobs in the US, in Australia, and even in the UK, and it's easier to get permanent residency and settle in those countries, and the amount of money is also higher compared to other professions.
Right.
So and then we worked with Coventry University back in 2018, introducing two full courses in computing and cybersecurity, and now we have MSc Data Science as well, and also we are going to introduce artificial intelligence very soon at the undergraduate level. So even then, still there are a few problems in this sector, because the first one would be equivalency. The Tribhuvan University, which is our kind of parent university throughout the country, does all sorts of equivalency. Whatever degree you teach within the territory of Nepal, we have to go through the Tribhuvan University for equivalence thing. And the problem is that they do not have that particular degree in their own institution. So, and they are also facing
how do you evaluate it?
And they'll have to hold meetings and all sorts of things as well. And you must have heard in the news that last time even the degrees from Oxford University, Cambridge University were not recognized. The people had to go through all sorts of processes, and they refused to recognize those degrees, and it came out in the paper. It became a national issue. And I don't blame the Tribhuvan University people as well, because there is a set framework up which degree to recognize, which degree not to recognize, and once it goes outside of framework, they have to pull all sorts of people from all sorts of departments, and they have to sit for a meeting, and if one person disagrees, and there is a problem.
Sure.
And obviously it's a government body, and the things are really slow. Right? And that's the reason whoever applied for that equivalency got frustrated. And we need to change the system, obviously. Right? So those are the little problems that we have as well. And when we introduce, for example, cybersecurity degree, right? So we need all sorts of equipments.
Right.
And to be honest, to sort of purchase those equipments from abroad, from the US, from the UK, from Australia, from Singapore, it's a problem for us as well.
Sure.
Right? Because the thing is, first of all, we don't know whether we have to take the permission from the government, the local police. We don't know that.
Right.
And there is no sort of guideline of what sort of devices that we are allowed to import.
Right.
And what sort of devices are we allowed to actually teach students?
Is there a resource to find that information, or is that part of the problem?
That's a part of the problem. I mean, we don't know that. And it's, I don't think it's written anywhere.
Right. Well, there's a very good chance it's not, because it's kind of a new problem, right?
Yeah. So those are the challenges. And when, let's say, we are going to introduce artificial intelligence, in the next few months, and then again we need all sorts of devices.
Right.
And then importing, it's not available in the country, which is pretty obvious, right? So we need to import it from various different countries. And when we import it, then there is the tax part is one thing. right?
Yeah. Not to mention shipping it from wherever you're shipping it from.
And generally, if you import it for education purpose, in most of the countries, it's tax-free. In most of the countries, I'm not sure about the US, but in most of the countries, if you are importing something for education purposes only, then it's tax-free. But I don't think that's the case here as well. And people at the revenue department or the people at the airport, they do not have this knowledge that this is for the educational purpose, and they can't differentiate.
Right.
And there's no mechanism to differentiate.
I
don't blame them.
Yeah, there's no standardization, so they don't have some way
There's no standardized, there's no guideline.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that as well. And you must have heard, the government sites being hacked.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the problem is now when you talk about the government has a bidding process. They simply cannot go out to a vendor and ask them to build a website for them.
Of course.
Right, so there's a process, and then they have to, go through the bidding process. They have to,
get so many bidders. Do a certain
and then,
bidding process.
Amongst those bidders, and you need to choose the lowest price ones, and and people who are looking after that bidding documents, I suspect they do not know much about the quality of the website, the payment gateways.
Sure. Yeah.
How much it costs.
They may not have the training or experience.
You can make a website for 5,000 rupees. I mean, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right. Or you can make a website for 5 crores.
Right.
Or 5 million rupees, or even 50 million rupees. So it all depends on what kind of website.
But of course, you very likely will get what you paid for as well.
So it's all a mess in Nepal. We are going in the right way, but a lot of people don't know whether that is the right way, or are there any other ways as well. And various interests collide. Politically, at the bureaucratic level, at the local level, and even international interests are there. Right. Yeah. So education-wise, we are doing well. Since 2011, there are many international colleges offering international degrees in Nepal. There are, I think, now about 15, 16 proper ones, which are offering innovative courses that are not available in the Nepali market at Nepali universities.
Right.
And mimicking our courses, now the university have started to offer those courses as well.
Right.
So now Kathmandu University is introducing artificial intelligence.
Right.
And cybersecurity as well.
Right.
Even Tribhuvan University is trying to come up with innovative courses as well. And that would not have happened if we had not offered these courses in Nepal, because they were forced to do it.
Well, now, and that's how those things happen too, right?
Yeah.
Someone sees someone that's doing something innovative and interesting.
Yeah.
They want to get on board, and that's it's obviously not the best thing in some cases for you, because now you have new competition. But at the same time, that's the way that the system evolves over time, right?
Yeah. So that's the general education situation in Nepal at the moment. And the other thing I want to add onto that is it's the perception of foreign education providers in general public is improving.
What do you mean? Foreign education providers, like from outside?
Yeah.
Evaluating
like the ones
education?
we offer degrees from the UK, and we have to send some amount to that particular university as well,
right.
For all the degree, for the
like the
accreditations and all that. And we do not have this quota limit. Most of the government colleges have quota. Right, so they cannot enroll.
Whatever
they can only enroll up to this number for a particular course. So we don't have that.
Right.
So our university allows us to admit as many students, provided that you have enough infrastructure,
Sure.
other resources to support those students. And there's been a huge debate on that as well, because a lot of these constituent colleges of these universities, they have quota system, and they are saying that we should also be allowed to take as many students as we want. And these institutions like us, we are allowed, so why can't we do it? So there's been a huge debate as well. So that's the situation. And the problem with them is that they are a 4-year course, and the result does not come out on time. And the quality, which is, I don't have to say, it's pretty obvious. The quality of graduates that we churn out and the quality of the graduates that the regular university churn out is totally different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I'm not just saying it, it's the fact, it's the data that is speaking. Right. So our placement rates is almost 100%.
Yeah.
Which is not the case with any other universities or any other institution for that matter.
Which is a pretty good metric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of our graduates have gone to, multinational companies, IT companies such as Instagram, Motorola, those sort of companies that they've, found jobs on.
Yeah.
So obviously the quality is there. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened.
Right. Because they could just pick from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the situation now. Yeah.
So how do you find, I mean, young people, I think, especially like college age or approaching college age, their familiarity with technology is leaps and bounds ahead of even the previous generation. How do you find, as far as dealing with parents' thoughts and reservations about their kids going into technology? I mean, I would imagine it's quite different than it was back in 2011, but even now, how are parents, like I know, for example, from talking to young people and their parents in certain gatherings around here that, like the term hacker. There's an ethical hacking program. Softwarica has one. Ethical hacking. But you hear hacker and, the thing that comes to mind is, to them, is just what you see on TV.
It has a different connotations, yeah.
Yeah. So how is it, even just the hacker term aside, just in general, what do you think the parents' perception is to their children, becoming an IT person instead of, say, a doctor, lawyer, or finance person?
I'll take my example. Back in the days, I was doing my high school. I was a science student. I was one of the brilliant students. I still am. So my father used to work in a bank, a government bank, and when I told him that I want to do IT, I don't want to do medicine, because I actually went for biology, which leads to a medical degree. Right. So I did that biology thing, and then I also took an extra course on physics, so I could go on to engineering as well. So I completed all that. Now, when I told my father that I'm interested in information technology, ICT, then he was kind of frustrated and told me that there is a guy in my office who is the computer operator, who is really, really junior, doesn't do much. He simply fixes a few computers and then types few letters and prints it out, and that's what you want to be. And that was his perception of technology back then.
Sure.
Right. This was 1997.
Yeah.
Now, since then, perceptions have changed, but not as much as it should be. There are still a lot of parents who think like my father thinks.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's their experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people just can't get their head around the possibilities of technology and what the world has changed in the past 2 decades.
Sure.
Drastically.
Sure.
Right. So if you think about 2000, 2001, and now 2023, it's upside down.
Right. But the parents are living in 2001 in a sense.
Yeah, and they're still, using basic technologies, writing letters and, posting on Facebook and, things like that. So a lot of parents still need to be educated in a sense that, the technology is the future.
Yeah.
Right. And my father's generation, he has his friends around the government circle who are now diplomats and bureaucrats and, all these people still on service, right? And those generation people still can't get their head around.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a massive need, there's a dire need for some sort of awareness program from the government level, from the local level, to sort of get them understand the possibility of technology.
Well, I think when someone of that generation like goes on their phone, for example, right, they're tapping the Facebook icon or whatever, they're doing stuff, the notion of the back end is a complete mystery. Like that's a big part of it, right? So like even the technology they use, if you don't have some idea of what the back end is, then it's easy to think like, oh, somebody just like put this together and stuck it on the phone and then that's it, right?
That's why I said, owning devices is thought to be, being in technology in Nepal.
Yeah, which is just the gateway to the actual technology,
Exactly.
really, right? Yeah, so I think that's right. I don't think that's actually a exclusive problem to Nepal. I mean, I have relatives, like my mom's in her 70s, and my mom knows how to use her phone and do some stuff. But I think if I tried to even start discussing a little bit about analytics and, database management, it would be like,
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a unusual problem, but it's not something they need to know in detail. I think. I think it's just a literacy of the general.
Yeah, that's
field.
what I mean, it's not possible for them to make them
Sure.
understand every bit.
Yeah, of course.
But then just a larger picture of what technology is about, or what
Yeah.
are these possibilities, especially in a country like Nepal, where technology can really change people's lives.
Sure.
Right,
Sure.
and it doesn't need much of an investment to start off. Right, anybody with with a laptop and an internet connection with
Can
the
get
right
started.
skill
Sure.
can get started and get some money out of it.
Yeah.
Without much investment and without taking much risk.
Yeah.
So unlike other sectors where you really have to put on some capital to get something.
Yeah, you
in
got to
return.
buy stuff to do stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
for example, in hospitality, you might have to own a restaurant. You have to invest a lot of money in restaurants and things like that. It's
Yeah.
not like that in IT. So even young people as young as 15 or 16 can actually earn a little money for their expenses.
Yeah.
Simply by doing data entry stuffs or doing SEO stuff.
Have you ever explored the idea of holding like education seminars for parents to explain to sort of like what their kids could be going into and doing?
Yeah, we are mulling over it. We thought about it a few years back as well, and then I remember that once we did that as well, but then we did not have much of a participation.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah. I mean, I think year to year you would have a better chance at participation, but it also seems like it's something almost that you have to kind of beat the drum for a while, right? Because again, like the parents have this idea of what it is, and so you almost like you almost have to keep repeating the story over and over, I think.
Yeah, and coming back to the question again, young people, again, there's a lot of problems in that as well, because a lot of young people are using devices and they know how to use those devices better in a lot of innovative ways, but not for learning and skill development. Right. So they even my daughter knows a lot about my phone. She knows pretty much everything, all the stuff that my phone can do.
Right.
Which, I only understand it 20-30%. I rarely use 10%.
Right.
Right. So my daughter, she kind of knows pretty much everything, the capacity of the phone and all that. So, and now our responsibility, it's high time that we need to divert their attention towards the skill building part and towards the learning part.
Yeah.
So, everyone is in Instagram. They know all the features, how to edit the photos and, how to fake all that, how to change the backgrounds and, how
what to do with it.
How to, attract as many people, how to get more likes and, things like that. So young people are concentrated on those stuffs rather than actually, building a platform, creating an app.
Or even how to take those skills and transform it into something.
Learning UI and UX and, all those sort of things, right? Google Ads and, things like that. So even as an education institution, as an academician myself, I think it's a huge responsibility for me and my, my fraternity to make young people understand that, these things will not lead anywhere.
Right.
Unless you learn the actual skills, unless you learn how to create the platform, unless you learn, as you said, the back end part of it.
Yeah.
How thing operates and how to create an app like Instagram.
Yeah, how to utilize the power
Yeah.
within those developed apps already
Yes.
towards something. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the thing that I think education institutes, especially the technology ones, should ponder upon.
Yeah, and I've seen, students coming into the early college level. I've seen what you're talking about, and even tools that don't require like any kind of investment other than some time and intellectual investment. Like for example, I introduced some students to like just advanced searching on the internet, how to find like information programs, things that don't come up when you're
Yeah.
Googling puppy pictures. You know what I mean? Like and even that knowledge is like sort of lacking. So that would be like an area that I think even just getting some awareness in students to realize like there's a lot more to the internet than just your apps and searching for basic stuff and that. So, so that part of education, I think, is by itself is like sort of its own field, right? It's just getting them aware that this is a really powerful tool. Like I find a lot of students are really shocked when I tell them, like when you Google something, for example, you're only searching maybe 4 to 5% of the internet, and students find that shocking. Like I get 45 billion results. How can that possibly be because that's the way the internet works. Like Google and only indexes a small part of it. And so, and that's a relatively simple fact, but it's really a key fact because it shows that they really don't understand the overall universe. And that's just the internet. We're not even talking about the back end. We're not talking about the development. So there's definitely a lot of area there for general awareness, and hopefully just through this kind of conversation, like might dawn on some people like, wow, there's really more I could do there. But so related to that, like students get an education and then they do pick up these skills. The tendency, as you and I both know, in Nepal is to go abroad and find a job, right? So I'm going to ask you sort of a two-part question here. So the first one is, are there jobs in Nepal for students to pursue, whether they're jobs that they can go get to work for somebody else or whether they can create their own? So let's start with that. So what do you see the job situation like for technology graduates in Nepal?
Well, as I said, we have 100% placement at Softwarica College, which means that there are jobs available, right? I mean, for the right people,
Sure.
for people with right skills. I still get approached by a lot of IT companies, asking for talent,
Sure.
right? And then we do provide them, our talent, our graduates, and they are doing well, and they are paid well in Nepali context. Okay, so there are jobs available if that particular student has the right talent and if he or she is willing to learn. Even if he or she does not have that, if that student or that graduate is willing to learn, there are jobs available. But the problem is not that, Rob. I mean, the problem is, what happened in the past decade was, our students and young people got exposed to a lot of different luxuries in the world because of the internet.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And they pretty much know all the luxury items and things to do, places to go. Even though they haven't been to Greece, they know pretty much about all those Greek islands.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all on the internet, and Instagram just made this happen.
Yeah.
And staying in Nepal and making the decent money that any graduate would earn will not simply fulfill that desire.
Right.
Right? And the problem in Nepal is that, you earn decent money, but still you'll not be able to afford every weekend out.
Right.
Because weekend out in Nepal is expensive. I mean, it's pretty much similar to the weekend out in the US or in the UK or Australia for that matter. But the income is not at that level.
Yeah. So
Right?
in other words, the day-to-day, the income is good.
Yeah.
But then some of the other things
Exactly.
the proportion becomes different.
Yeah. I mean, day-to-day living. I mean, your general expenses are, it's okay. I mean, you can pretty much get by and live comfortably with that amount.
Yeah.
But once you begin to explore luxuries, once you begin to sort of go night out in fine restaurants or clubs, or
Sure.
then you start to feel that the amount of money that you earn is not much.
Yeah, I see.
You simply cannot afford these places even once a month.
Right. Yeah.
And then once these young people who are exposed with all sorts of luxuries around the world, and they simply do not want to stay in the country. They want to go abroad, where with the similar kind of job could actually afford those luxury items at least 3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Maybe in Nepal it's only once a month.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Right? So that is it's my personal opinion though, right? So that's the reason, most graduates go abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And another reason is freedom, independence. So
freedom from
everything. From parents, do
it's
whatever
like
you want.
You mean like striking out on their own?
From culture.
Yeah.
So you might not, be able to go to a club and come back at 3 a.m.
Right.
In Kathmandu, in most families.
Right. I see.
Right.
Yeah. Like a cultural freedom, essentially. Yeah.
So you want to make some money, and then you want to spend it on whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then you want to wear whatever you want. Right, and then you want to explore a little bit more as well. So those are the reasons, and the discourse in Nepal is such that people go abroad because there are no jobs in Nepal. Nepal is a poor country, and then not much will happen in Nepal. You'll have no career. That is absolutely false.
Yeah, if anything, it's a tiny fraction of a much larger.
It's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you work for an organization for a decade, and then you really do it diligently, then you will reach somewhere. You'll have a house.
Yeah.
You'll have a car, right? And you'll have pretty much a little bit luxuries as well.
Right.
So not having a career in Nepal is absolutely false. So I'm looking for few people, since past 3 months. I haven't found one, Rob.
Yeah.
I've interviewed many. It's like all I'm asking is a good communication skills, a graduate.
Yeah.
Able to coordinate my academic department with the marketing department. That's it. I'm willing to offer good money, but I haven't found anyone yet.
That's interesting. So it's there's almost
it's not even a high skill job.
Yeah, there's almost like an absence of labor. More than there is an absence of jobs.
Yeah, well, this one is relevant to the urban people. I'm not talking about people from villages who have this compulsion to go out and support the families. I understand.
There's a very different dynamic when you get outside the valley.
That's another. We can do another episode on that because it's going to be a huge, long talk.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm only representing urban youths who actually come to institutions like ours and other private institutions where the fees are quite higher.
Yeah, I should have said that up front because I understood that, but yeah, obviously people listening to us maybe missed that. But yeah, so that's interesting because I don't think too many people put it that way. But the more that just sitting here thinking about what you just said, and my own experience with people, that does seem a more accurate description of the issue, but I've not heard somebody put it that way. Let me put it that way.
So otherwise, why would somebody who owns few houses in Kathmandu, already has a car, right, and gets good pocket money from his dad or her dad, why would the student would want to go to the US or Australia for odd jobs and to struggle?
Right. Yeah, it can't be money, obviously, right?
So it's beyond that.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, you said it's your opinion, but I mean, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to me, at least,
So why would someone who could afford to study at Softwarica College, which is pretty expensive given the Nepali standard. Why would the students go? I do not understand. If it's about money,
Right.
if it's about career, and career, we have a career in Nepal. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Right. So what do you do with that?
It's a interesting.
I just asked you to solve like a national problem, right?
It's an interesting question. I think awareness, more sort of talk programs involving people who've stayed in these countries, for example, the US and Australia, to give a talk on what sort of lives they are having and what they missed out in those, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, right? And most of my friends have settled abroad, especially the US and Australia as well. So when I speak to these people, they always kind of give me this impression that they've missed out quite a lot in life.
Because they've been gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the past 2 decades, two and a half decades.
Well, I mean, they've been gone from their family, many of their friends.
Yeah.
All kinds of things that are familiar.
You know, and it really, as per them, it really felt good to be in the US or Australia for a while.
Sure. Until the reflection time comes. Yeah.
So until about like 7-8 years,
when you start getting older and
you went to the university, you hung out with a lot of people from a lot of different cultures, and you had relationships, and
But then you get old like us, and core things start to matter.
Life was
more.
good, but then once you got settled, you got married, you have 2 kids now, and you have to look after those kids, and all the familial things coming about.
Yeah.
And now they are wondering, what's going on. I mean, is this the life that I really aspired in the first place 25 years ago? So some even said that, this is not the life I imagined. I mean, I got kind of stuck in this, after 25 years.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that I think young people in Nepal don't really have any way to contemplate is there's something I tend to think of as the Western trap. So it's easy to get lots of those luxury items and all those things, even with a modestly good job, but you're tied to those things. You get you have a nice big car, beautiful car, because you can get it on a car payment. But now you're tied to that thing.
Yeah.
You get this nice big beautiful house, and it's wonderful and everything, but 15 years later, you're still paying for that house. And it's not like at that point when you have those realizations, you can just get up and go, And I think that's lost on them because no young people thinks about that. I didn't think about that when I bought my first house when I was 25 or whatever.
And also how in a day, how many hours would you actually spend in that big house or driving that car?
Yeah.
Think about it, right? How many hours?
Yeah, I mean, if you're working like we'll call it a regular job, right? You're probably leaving in the morning. You're commuting in the car for anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours or whatever. Then you're in the office for 10. So you're in that big, beautiful house. You're just sleeping in it.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I
sleeping
meant.
in it and getting ready for work.
Absolutely.
And then in the car, you're in the beautiful car to get you to work.
So if you're lucky enough, you get weekends off if you have a white collar job. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have blue collar job, you won't get weekends off. So let's say you have a white collar job. Even then, you like a day in a week you spend cleaning the house, managing it, putting things in order, right? And I don't think people would enjoy that.
Yeah, you're not admiring the house. You're cleaning.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You're suffering for it.
Yeah, and Friday night you want to go out. You don't want to stay at the same place, whole week.
Right.
So
even though you haven't really actually been there all
Exactly.
week except to sleep. Yeah. No, I think I think that's I don't think that's an unusual thing for any young person anywhere. But the difference is when you're talking about leaving your entire home life, family life to go experience that. That I think that calculation is more hard hitting when you hit 40, 45.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not against people going abroad and
Absolutely.
experiencing and meeting people from a variety of different cultures, learning things.
Absolutely.
We should definitely do that. But then,
I think many people or most people should if they can do that because you learn about how other people live and how other people are.
Yeah.
But But I know what you're going to, the
Yeah,
segue
yeah. I
to
mean,
that is, but don't
I'm
stay
against
gone
the
forever.
idea to cling on to whatever you can get abroad, right? Just don't cling on it. I mean, if it's working out fine, if you got a job in NASA or something, that's fine, absolutely okay,
Yeah.
right? If you make it as a businessman, you came up with an app, sold it for $10 million. Great,
Sure.
good for you.
Find your wife off in another
I
country.
mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
But why would you cling on a $12 an hour job for the rest of your life?
Just for the sake of being there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, there's a big difference between choosing a lifestyle and an outcome and being imprisoned by one. Right. And I think that's what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to leave with the notion that you have to make it there and you have to do and suffer whatever indignity that comes with it,
Yeah.
But I think that's that also seems to be for the Nepali people that I know that live in the U.S. That also seems to be an underlying assumption that isn't said out loud, but this idea that they came there to accomplish something and they didn't accomplish it, or at least not the way they intended or something, and so to go back would almost be like a concession, like a defeat, And so I think some people stay there and suffer for that because it's easier than to have to come back and sort of admit, even though that probably wouldn't be met that way here back when they come back home. But I think there's some people in their mind like it would be a failure if I go back.
Yeah, that happens because the primary reason people go abroad is to find a career, settle in a good way, and then they were not able to do that because they did not focus on whatever objective that they wanted to pursue in the first place, right? So they went to, let's say, the US, and then they simply got engaged in odd jobs and enjoyed the amount that came from those jobs, which is obviously way higher than whatever they used to earn in Nepal.
Right.
And they got somehow lost in that financial thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then they forgot, they put their objective in the back burner.
Yeah.
While enjoying the whatever amount of money, which is way higher than back in Nepal.
Right.
And when they realize that they are in the wrong track, it's too late.
Yeah, because
so
then
10
you're
years
stuck
has
in
already
that.
gone by.
It was like that trap we talked about.
Yeah.
You've committed
10
to
10 years gone past.
Yeah, you've committed to time.
Right?
You've committed to.
And then when you turn back, and then you suddenly realize that this isn't the life that I wanted. I got it was okay 5 years back because I was making quite a bit of money. I was going to pubs. I was going to clubs. I was traveling in a nice car. All that stuff.
Yeah.
But then after 10 years, after 15 years, suddenly,
I have the car and I have the bills, but that's it.
That's it.
I don't have any happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even have money. I mean, happiness is
Well, yeah, because it's all tied up in my bills that I've been generating over the last 10 years. Buying the stuff.
Yeah. All you'll have, if you are not a businessman, if you've not, done something innovative, you'll own a house after 25 years, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
With a regular job.
Yeah, because each week you've just been
25 years you'll get a house, and by then you're old.
Right. Yeah.
And your children will grow up, and you have another responsibility sending them to schools.
Right. Yeah. It's very depressing when you put it that way, but yeah, I mean that's I think one thing that's lost here is even within, so like for example in the US, even within the US, people fall into that trap. So like if you look at so my original hometown is in the Northeast, New York State, and that is an area that had like an industrial decline, financial decline. So many people started moving away. So, I have a particular person in my family, for example, that moved they were making good money where we lived, but they made a lot more money. And now they've moved to this other city that's, a 10-hour drive away. And in that city, they do well. They make good money and all that, but they're alone. They're lonely a little bit. And I mean, they have their family unit, but like to see the rest of the family is, and that's 10 hours. Now you're talking someone from Kathmandu who's going to New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not even 10 hours on a plane, you know?
True, yeah.
So I think, you know, that people fall into that trap a lot. And I think that, I think that's a big part of that reason is because there's the money is part of it, but the money, it's sort of the assumed stature that comes with money, right? Like we're all programmed that way to some extent. Like I need to be making X number of dollars to be some elite, worthy citizen, whatever it is that's in our mind, you know. But then you can have someone who's making, in the U.S., say like $40,000, which is a relatively lower salary in most cities, who's living there every day the way they want to do it, you know. And that disparity, it certainly exists everywhere, but I think it exists here in a tragic way because people leave to the point where they leave, you know, like, you know, my relative can drive back, fly back, and we could do that in a day at least. Here it's like, you know, not too many people are only going to Delhi or somewhere. They're going pretty far, right? So that to me is the tragic part because like you give up something that you don't realize the value of it until it's already long gone, and then you're stuck. So so we shouldn't wrap up on like a negative note. So what could we say positive?
Well, you know, one more negative thing about the whole economy is that the economy in Nepal, you know, has gone down drastically, and part of the problem is that a lot of young people are not inside the country anymore.
Yeah.
And these are the people who consume a lot of goods and services. And the goods and services provider are in limbo now, that there are no people to market to.
Right.
And that's one of the problem. And it's been estimated that almost 10 million people are outside the country.
In a population of barely 30.
In 30 million.
Yeah.
So 1/3 of the population is outside, and these are all young people.
Right.
People who can actually work.
Workers, consumers, innovators.
Everyone is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So and part of the problem with this economy is that, you know, if you go outside in restaurants, that they are empty now.
Yeah.
Not just because of the worldwide economic slowdown. It's also because we do not have the consumers here. They're outside. They've gone, and, you know, on the process to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So what we should do is develop the IT industry in such a way that we can hold the population without much investment.
Yeah.
That's one thing we can do without, you know, putting in a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Right. And yeah, I think we should also change the perception of work. So in Nepal, we have like if we go into agricultural industry, if you raise cows, if you have pig farms, you are thought of, you know, lowly kind of occupation.
Right.
So we need to change that perception as well. Create more jobs through IT industry, you know, and also the education system as a whole. I think it's another topic now, because the education providers and teachers and university professors are not regarded as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm not sure if you know the fact that, you know, teachers and basically people into teaching professions, it doesn't matter, kindergarten or university, you know, those professions are the last resort for people seeking career in Nepal, even now. So if they are not successful becoming a doctor, engineer, a politician, what do you call it? Any other profession.
Yeah, it's a
that's the
it's
last
a fallback
resort. Yeah, it's a fallback one.
Yeah.
And you know, and we send our children to these people who are first of all frustrated because they could not make it as a doctor or engineer or business person or politician or government employee.
Frustrated, right? not particularly self-confident because they already know they're viewed that way. Yeah.
And they're already depressed. They're already frustrated. They want to they're looking for ways to quit and get something else.
And these are the people molding you.
Yes.
Yeah.
and we need to change that as well. And that we've started doing it through DG technology, kind of glorifying education in a digital way.
Yeah.
So where even the teacher has all the computer screen and data crunching and give some statistics and all that. It's just kind of making it look like a better profession.
Well, I don't
For
think
example, if you go in a bank,
Yeah.
then the operator ask your names and details, it puts in the account number and then gives you all the details.
Yeah.
It's a kind of fancy kind of environment, right?
I think it's a validation.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's like saying that you actually are doing something.
Yeah, so we are
important.
trying to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of making it look more professional, making it look more sort of modern
Yeah.
in that sense.
Sure.
So we're doing that. So I think this should be done from the government level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the core thing, isn't it? I mean, education
Yeah.
is the core thing,
Yeah.
and it also depends how we teach our children about a broad world in general. So we all have rosy pictures painted all over,
Yeah.
for the US, for Western countries.
Which is really really ironic to me because every person in Nepal wants to get out, and every person that I know that knows I'm here wants to come here because in outside of the Nepali citizen mind, Nepal's the most beautiful place on earth to like.
It
most
is,
people.
isn't it? I mean,
And it is. It's objectively true, but it's kind of just like any person that lives next to something really cool. After a while, it's not cool anymore because you're used to it. But you also tend to forget then that the other 7.5 billion people in the world or whatever.
Exactly. I live next to Buddha Stupa,
Yeah,
but I barely go there.
yeah.
Right. So
And it's an internationally recognized landmark. Yeah.
I barely go there. I
Yeah.
mean, people talk about a lot of restaurants there. I don't even know what restaurants are there. But I
Yeah.
barely go there because I could see the thing from my roof,
Right.
from my house. So
Right.
it just doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Right. Somebody living in front of Eiffel Tower doesn't regard Eiffel Tower that
Yeah.
much. So it's the same scenario for me.
But that's why I try to remind the young people, like, you may have this vision of America or the UK or wherever now, but that is going to wear off, and you're still going to be stuck with the rest. So and so don't there's a reason why there's that grass is greener expression.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so to end with, I just want to reiterate that Nepal is not a poor country. Nepal is a very beautiful country. We have a lot of opportunities there. However, there are some, problems in Nepal in relation to affordability of luxury items.
Sure.
A lot of young people would like all sorts of luxuries, which may not be possible with the salaries that they get once they graduate. But that the situation will not remain the same. They will upgrade themselves. And also with time, they would realize that those luxuries that they seek for, they're not worth it.
Right.
Right? So it's a beautiful place to be in. I mean, people should travel abroad. They should see places. They should even, get education from other countries as well, if that's not available in Nepal. But all of these students and people should realize that it's not rosy.
Yeah.
There are
everywhere has
problems
its
everywhere.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? And this is your country, and then you can always have this connection with this country throughout the time. I mean, you will not have the same connection with the US no matter how many years you live there. 30
Right.
years, 40, it doesn't matter. You might become a citizen and all that, but you will not have that connection that you have with Nepal because you were born here, you were raised here.
Correct. And if you're not here, who's going to solve the problems?
Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thanks so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks for being here, and we'll wrap up.
Thanks.